Hey, greetings and salutations. It's 9 a.m. on 13th of July 2016, I believe. And I've got a couple of rifles with me today that I'm just going to play with for about an hour before it gets too hot out here. My my very first AR-15 build and my first 300 Blackout build. And I want to talk a little bit about why I personally built 300 Blackout. So let me get these guns out and get them dangered up and do some shooting. But first, coffee. Oh. Okay. There we go. Forgot my tripod, so I got kind of jerry-rigged here. Well, I'm going to start with this gun. I bought this as a complete 223 kit. Came with everything except the magazine and a lower. Came with everything you needed, all the parts, the buffer, the upper. The upper was assembled. Bolt carrier group. I got this a couple years ago, 3 years ago, from Bear Creek Arsenal for $399, and it has a 80% lower from Vision Armory that I bought for I think around $60. This is a aluminum casting. I've got a couple more of these that are forgings, but this gun in its current configuration, I've got less than $500 into it, and this is chambered in 223 Wild, and yeah, nice little gun. So that's the 223, and you can pick up cheap ammunition like Tula or Wolf for about Tula right now is going for 22, 23 cents a round, and I'm reloading 223 when I find brass all over the place, so I'm reloading 223 currently for about 16 cents a round. There's some conjecture whether or not it's worth doing, but I've got the dies, I've got the time, and I enjoy doing it. So if that's not your cup of tea, then fine, buy Tula or whatever. But M855 right now is going for about 40 cents a round in bulk. So when I decided to do a 300 Blackout, there was a lot of different factors into the decision to build 300 Blackout. I wanted a 30 caliber rifle because obviously you can't, in a lot of jurisdictions, you can't hunt with a 22 caliber projectile. You have to have like in Michigan where I hail from, you have to have at least 24 caliber. My dad's hunting rifle is a 243. Ain't that much bigger than a 223, but it's a little bit bigger. It's almost 25 caliber. So in a lot of states, you can't hunt with an AR-15 and chambered in 223 or 5.56. So, 20 years ago, you really couldn't use this for anything more than varmint hunting. Today, you got a plethora of options of different calibers that you could use. 300 Blackout is just one of those. And the reason I chose 300 Blackout is because essentially, the only thing you need to change to use the 300 Blackout is the barrel. Everything else remains the same, whereas if you're using like a 7.62x3.9 conversion, you got to change the bolt, you got to change the magazine. You have 300 Blackout, you can use everything that you already have, and the only thing you need to change is the barrel. Gas system's the same. Of course, your muzzle device is going to be a 30 caliber muzzle device. And the primary reason that I did 300 Blackout is because I reload. Now, for an economic standpoint, buying 300 Blackout isn't cheap. Here's one of the current offerings, and there's a lot of different options for 300 Blackout. But here's a box of 20, and they cost at the gun store here in town I think these were 15 bucks, 75 cents a round for these, compared to Tula in 223, 22 cents a round. It doesn't take a math magician to understand that it's a lot cheaper to shoot 223 as opposed to 300 Blackout. But reloading 300 Blackout is where you're going to save your money. And you can actually reload 300 Blackout for about the same price, especially if you're reloading subsonic, for about the same price as you reload 223. Right now I'm running 16 cents a round for 55 grain seconds, just plinking rounds, and I think I can do, according to Pop's Quest, he's reloading 300 Blackout at 19 cents a round. So that's a considerable savings, you know, when you're looking at options running from, I was looking through Cheaper Than Dirt today, and the cheapest offering I saw in bulk was 55 cents a round. I forget the size of the bullet. You can go Cheaper Than Dirt and check it out yourself. About 55 cents a round, running all the way up to about almost $2 a round, depending on the projectile and the loading. So, you know, reloading this is definitely a great option if you have the equipment and the wherewithal to do it. More and more companies are manufacturing this ammo, so you're going to see, I think in the years ahead, you're going to see a less expensive alternative, like a plinking round for 300 Blackout that's relatively affordable. I heard some rumors that you know, somebody's going to start making steel case stuff. So, but 300 Blackout, that's one of the main reasons I did it, is because I can reload it cheap. And interestingly enough, I'm going to shoot the 300 Blackout right now, and I'll show you why reloading can be really cheap. So here's my 300 Blackout. One thing you don't want to do is chamber a 300 Blackout into 223. Your day will end badly. But again, this is a budget build. Yeah, I think I haven't done the math what I got into this, but about 500 bucks into this. There's nothing fancy. All this stuff is, you know, mil spec. The bolt carrier group is a mil spec bolt carrier group. The parts, lower parts, are mil spec. This happens to be a polymer 80 lower, an Anderson upper without the forward assist or the dust cover, and this has just got a really inexpensive, very slim free float handguard on it, cheap eBay scope, mil spec adjustable stock. Yeah, so let's shoot this bad boy. That is a 223 cartridge. 223 cartridges are easier to prepare. The brass itself is easier to prepare for reloading because the primer pockets aren't staked, and usually the necks are not as long. Military spec brass, the necks are a little bit longer. So you generally don't have to resize these. I mean, in terms of the length. And if you have military spec brass, you got to run this through a go-no-go gauge. Typically, you have to shave, you know, a 32nd inch off the top of this thing. You need to prepare the primer pockets. It means you knock the primer out of it, and then you know, bevel that crimp off the primer pocket so that you can get a new primer in there. But typically, I'm getting 3, sometimes 4 reloadings with my brass, and at that point the neck split. So, you know, after about 2 or 3, maybe as many as 4 reloadings, that will split right there. And typically in the past, what I've been doing to keep my damaged brass, unreloadable 223 brass from the rest of the brass, is grabbing a pair of pliers and crushing it and throwing it in a box where I keep all my scrap brass. The advantage to using 300 Blackout is that you can reuse these by simply, you know, the case is essentially the same dimension. The bases are the same. Of course, this stamped 300 Blackout and this isn't, but dimensionally, the cases are the same. You take a 223 brass and you cut it off right here where the cartridge necks down 222. You cut it off there and run it through a 300 Blackout sizing die. It trim the end of the case, and your primers are the same. Your powder charge is generally less, obviously, because you can only contain, these are usually full right up to the taper with powder, and these aren't. So your powder loads in a 300 Blackout are going to be cheaper than the powder loads in 223, but you're going to make up the difference with the increased cost of the projectile. Does that make sense? So your reloading costs are essentially the same, pretty close, and you're shooting a 30 caliber bullet for the same money as a 223 bullet. Win-win. Plus, you can shoot 300 Blackout supersonic and subsonic, and the gun will still function. You know, even subsonic, this gun is going to be able to take down a pretty large game animal, pretty much any game animal in North America. And yeah, now you can carry a 7-pound rifle instead of a 14-pound rifle. That's why I like the AR-15, because it's light. I've been asked, well, why don't you just buy an AK-47 if you want to shoot 7.62 by 39? AK-47s are not light, and I like the AR-15, and I like the idea of being able to have multiple calibers and just pinning them on the same lower. So that's why I do 300 Blackout. Your results may vary, and your reasons may vary, but that's just, you know, that's just a toy. That's just a fun little toy. But really, the primary reason why I did it is because I can get, now instead of 3 or 4 reloadings out of a single piece of brass, I may even get as many as 10 reloadings out of my brass. That's the reason why I built 300 Blackout, because I can use this 2 to 3 times longer if I change to this caliber after the neck splits on the 223. Seems like a pretty ridiculous reason to get 300 Blackout in it. But one of the other things is, if I ever decide to pick up hunting again, now I've got a 30 caliber rifle I can shoot anywhere in the United States, for, as far as I know, to hunt game like deer, antelope, pig. So that's why I did it. Why did you do it? Comment in the comment section. But until next time, fellas, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep your powder dry, and you have a splendid day. Bye now. Sure hope I get over that PTSD. Yeah, I think I'm over it. Pick up your brass, Rick. Pick up your brass.